All right, let's dive into the social media universe of 2025. It's a world that's more connected than ever, but as you're about to see, the power, the money, and even the creators themselves, well, they might not be who you think they are. Let's get into it.
Let's just start with a number that is kind of hard to even wrap your head around. 5.24 billion. That's how many social media user identities are active right now. That is more than 63% of every single human being on Earth. The scale is just absolutely staggering, and it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
So how on earth do we get to a number that big? It wasn't just about growth in the places you'd expect. Nope, this was a fundamental global rewiring of how we all connect and find information. I mean, think about this. We've just hit this massive turning point. With 5.56 billion users, the internet has now officially zoomed past traditional TV as the planet's #1 medium. This isn't just some passing trend. This is a complete overhaul of our global communication system.
And a huge piece of that growth is coming from one place in particular, India. It now has over 751 million internet users, making it the third largest market on the planet. You've got a median age of just 28 and super cheap data. That's basically the perfect recipe for the next billion users coming online.
So with billions and billions of people online, it's no surprise that a whole new kind of job has popped up, one built entirely on clicks, views, and content. So let's meet this new creator class.
You hear this term thrown around all the time, right? The creator economy. And it is absolutely massive. We're talking about more than 430 million people across the globe who are making content for a living. And this runs the gamut, from global superstars with huge production teams, all the way down to niche experts talking to a small but super dedicated community.
So, who are these creators really? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. We all tend to picture young Gen Z influencers, right? But the single largest group of creators is actually between 35 and 45 years old. They make up almost 40% of the total. It just goes to show you, this isn't just a young person's game anymore, it's become a legit career path for established professionals.
The gender dynamic is also pretty complex. While a lot of the big platforms like Instagram and TikTok have more female users, when you look at who's making the absolute most money, well, that list often features men, like MrBeast, right at the very top. So there's this interesting gap between who's on the platforms and who's reaching the highest levels of income.
But, and this is a big but, here's the reality check. For most people, this is not a get-rich-quick career. Not even close. A staggering 73% of creators earn less than $30,000 a year. So while the dream might be big, the financial reality is that this is an incredibly competitive field to break into.
Okay, so we've talked about the people making the stuff. Now let's shift gears and talk about the digital arenas where they all compete, the platforms themselves, which are locked in this constant, relentless battle for our attention.
And in the world of video, that fight really boils down to two absolute titans, YouTube and TikTok. They have totally different strategies, but they are both masters at capturing and holding our focus. So on one hand, you have the absolute beast, YouTube. With over 2.5 billion users, it just wins on pure scale and total hours watched. But TikTok's power, it's different. Its algorithm creates this insane time spent per user. People who use TikTok really use it. It is unbelievably sticky.
Now, you've probably heard this theory going around, right? That the version of TikTok they have in China, called Douyin, is all educational, while the international one is designed to be distracting. Well, as this Reddit user so bluntly puts it, that's largely a myth. The core algorithm, the thing designed to keep you scrolling through short, addictive videos, is exactly the same. The content is just censored in different ways.
So who pays for all of this? How does this massive, attention-grabbing ecosystem actually make any money? Let's follow the money in the business of clicks.
And this is where we've seen a huge change in how things work. Traditional ads, they're not #1 anymore. For 30% of creators, the top way to make money is now selling their own products directly to their audience. That's a massive shift toward creators basically becoming entrepreneurs.
And you can see that shift mirrored in the wider advertising world. Digital ad spending now makes up 73% of the global total. And in a key growth market like India, digital ad spending has officially passed television for the first time in history, grabbing 41% of the market. The money has absolutely followed the eyeballs online.
But it's not quite that simple. While the big dogs like Google and Meta dominate, some of the newer regional players like India's ShareChat and Moj are finding it really tough to convince the big advertisers. I mean, sure, they've got hundreds of millions of users, but they're struggling to prove that an ad on their platform actually leads to somebody buying something.
Okay, finally, let's pull back the curtain on the forces that you don't always see, the algorithms and the rules that are quietly shaping your entire experience online. It's such a simple question, but the answer is incredibly complicated because it's not just about who you choose to follow anymore. Your social media feed is a battleground of competing interests. First up, you've got AI. It is the engine of personalization. More than half of all creators are now using AI to get ideas and to tailor their content specifically for what the algorithm thinks you want to see. It's a really powerful tool for engagement, but what it means is your feed is becoming less of a window out onto the world and more of a mirror just reflecting you.
And of course, that personalization comes with a huge trade-off. To personalize your feed that much, platforms need your data, which raises all sorts of privacy concerns. And in many parts of the world, that same powerful algorithmic tech is used by governments for control and for censorship.
So what does that censorship actually look like? Well, because platforms are held legally responsible for what people post, they systematically remove sensitive content. And this just sparks a constant cat-and-mouse game. The authorities create new filters, and then users invent coded language or use VPNs to get around them. It's this endless tension between expression and control.
So all of this leaves us with one last question. As the AI gets better and better at predicting what we want, and creators get better at feeding the algorithm, that line starts to get really, really blurry. So, are we shaping our digital world, or is it shaping us? That's the central question of our hyper-connected age, and it's definitely something to think about the next time you scroll.